Hello, warrior parents and parents to be. So I just wanted to share this very disturbing, like I've never had a dream like this before. I had this dream at about 1:15 a.m. this morning, and here is the dream. I innocently visited an outdoor fun children's event center with my children. In this place, everyone had to wear t-shirts from the place that looked like they were from a camp-like center. So basically, we all had camp-like t-shirts. If you were going to the event center, you had to wear a camp-like t-shirt, and your children had to wear one as well. I noticed a large group of children, along with a leader for every 10 children I saw, were running into the event center with excitement and raffle tickets in their hands. They all had on t-shirts, but there were 3 sets of t-shirts to represent 3 different camps and a fresh roll of tickets in the hands of the leader. So basically, there was like a whole group of children and leaders. So obviously, the leaders outnumbered the children 10 per leader, and they had like 3 different t-shirts that represented 3 different camp event centers that were running in. So I could identify, okay, this one had that t-shirt. I'm sure you get it. So they ran into our event center and started locking hands with children that were already there and pretending to form some sort of ring around the rosy game where the children and the parents who were there with the children had to participate in. I don't know if you remember that game, Ring Around the Rosie, a pocket full of posy. So in the dream, they just randomly lock hands with strangers to pretend like they were having fun, like it was some kind of fun invasion, giving them raffle tickets and playing that game and singing that song. So I felt some children and a camp leader pull on my hands, trying to give me a row of raffle tickets. When I looked closer, I noticed they were not actually camp leaders. They looked more like gang/cult leaders. All of a sudden, I felt one of them try to put a knife to my side to force me to cooperate. I panicked on the inside and kept it calm on the outside because I realized this was a strategy for mass child trafficking. Now, at this point, from afar, they looked like normal fun camp leaders, but when they came close, they all had a similar look on their face that was so grim, it was dark, and it was just awful. At this point here, the Lord had already given me insight to what was really happening. At that moment, I knew that their strategy was to come to children's event centers with a group of already trafficked children who were a part of their scheme and forcefully recruit other parents as gang leaders on the spot to kidnap them and any child they were with within the vicinity through a pretend game of fun and commotion in the children's centers. When they suddenly ran into the event centers with a disguised game of Ring Around the Rosie and a raffle tickets, the gang leaders would then put a knife on the parents to force them to quietly cooperate so the event security guards wouldn't notice until the mass kidnapping was executed. If the parents refused but didn't run quickly enough, they would be stabbed soon and killed amid the commotion, and their children would be taken by the gang leaders. If they surrendered out of fear, they would turn into gang leaders immediately, recruiting more children besides their own. So basically, if these parents, right, panicked, they didn't fall for it, but didn't run fast enough, they would be stabbed and killed. And if they surrendered after they panicked and was like, okay, I give in, a spirit would come over them that would make them begin to look like the gang leaders. And then they would willingly surrender their children and then join the scheme to now get the other children to be able to be trafficked at once by locking hands with them, playing that game, and then doing whatever they had to do after. I knew I had to move quickly. As I saw the knife, I quickly shifted from that position and grabbed the hands of all 3 of my children. I was still in a spot in a time when they had not yet captured the entire children's event center. The person who put a knife on me knew that it was still early on in the scheme to apply much force. Where I was positioned, he couldn't openly attempt to stab me because a security guard assigned to our event center would see, and their mission would be shut down. I also knew some security guards, like the ones at the entrance, were in on the scheme. The ones positioned inside were half in on the scheme and the others were not. I noticed the target were only parents and not the adults. So basically, there were security guards on the inside that allowed these people to come in because they knew the strategy, they were in on it. But then there were also some security guards that were generally just there to protect the area. I noticed that the commotion and the strategy was to move from the front towards the back. So I knew I still had time to run to the back because it would take time for these games to happen, possess the parents, and then capture all of the children. The commotion was happening in the front, and I knew I had limited time before it could circulate. I saw someone that I knew and trusted in the dream, and I told them to please watch my children while I had to run and look for refuge where I could hide along with my children and some of the children and the parents at the event center. If I ran with my children, I would be spotted and unable to secure the refuge. I proceeded to the staircase. I noticed that the second floor of the building was a very opulent space completely separate from the children's event center, which was kind of weird. So on the first floor, it was a children's event center. And then as I walked to the steps and I went up the staircase, it also had an elevator, but I chose to take the stairs. It just was a whole separate, like, space. It looked completely different from what was happening on the first floor. So it looked like a club center for people with generational wealth, and you had to dress a certain way to blend in the upstairs area. So basically, the people I saw there looked like they had old money, like generational money, like it was passed down from generation to generation, and they dressed like they basically had old money. If you don't know what that is, then I think you can search it up on TikTok. So they were very simple, but very opulent at the same time, if that makes sense. But for me, I was still wearing an event center t-shirt and sweatpants because I came there with my children to play and not attend the opulent event center. So I would be spotted very easily. And as I mentioned before, if you were not a part of that club, you were going to be kicked out of the second floor. So I had to find a way to blend into the opulence without being spotted because of my clothes and being kicked out. While trying to do that, I heard one of the wealthy people speaking a Nigerian native tongue called Yoruba. Basically, Yoruba is one of the three main tribes we have in Nigeria. My language is a dialect and not one of the main languages like Yoruba, Igbo, and Hausa. So when I came to the States, which I'm going to read here in the dream, from the age of 5, my mom and we lived with a Nigerian family and they would speak Yoruba all the time, and I actually learned to understand Yoruba. Going back to the dream. That is not my language, but I could understand what she was saying in the dream. So I was able to respond to her in Yoruba, and she was shocked. She wondered how I could speak the language with how I was dressed in a camp shirt. I told her we lived with a Yoruba family for 2 years from the age of 5 when I was first in the United States with my mom, which happened in real life, as I mentioned. She was intrigued by my story and allowed me access to her space. I noticed some other people upstairs were also impressed with how I was speaking Yoruba and didn't care about the camp t-shirt that I had on anymore or breaking the dress code for their opulent space. So they were more intrigued with the language than what I was wearing. They also had no clue what was happening downstairs with the children. So it was like it looked like two separate worlds. I secured a place she owned to hide as many children as I could from those monsters. She walked me downstairs, but somehow I was shocked when she told me my children were safe. So I'm like, how do you even know what's going on with my children? So at this point, it's like you could either be an angel or you could be a hidden agent. So in real life, I used to be a makeup artist, and I had 2 clients that were really loyal clients. So they would always book me. So I saw them downstairs in the back center. The commotion had not yet circulated to the back where the staircase was. I saw them holding my children and taking care of them. As the lady and I were about to walk towards them to get the children, I woke up from the dream. And I was so shaken to my core because this is a very deep strategy that if it is actually executed in reality, it will be very, very fatal. We need to wake up in prayer. I'm sure the dream has so many dimensions that I'm yet to dissect because I'm still a little bit shaken because, like I said, I was literally just preparing for our 3 days fasting and prayer called Withstanding the Evil Day. The Lord had already been speaking to me about other things that were happening with children for me to cancel, but this dream right here took me on a new motion, like a new mindset to really destroy the works of darkness. So this is like an emergency. If you want to participate in our prayers, please click the link in the bio and join the Warrior Parents Tribe so you can get emails. And as you join the email list, please check your promotions tab, because all of a sudden, as I started sending emails out for the prayers, it started going to promotions instead of the primary tab now. So make sure you check your promotions tab as you sign up for the mailing list. We are praying tonight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. This is a state of emergency.